Installment loan. You definitely pay interest on the unpaid balance. That's all you pay interest on is the unpaid balance. So as you decrease that balance, they recalculate the interest, which means you end up paying a little bit less in interest every month. We saw how that worked with the tables that we put together, especially on Friday when we dealt with the amortization schedule that we did in Google Sheets. You might have a simple interest installment loan for a car and then sell the car before the end of the loan term. That's possible. If so, you only pay the previous balance plus the current month's interest. This is known as what's called the final payment. So, however, there might be a penalty for paying off a loan early. Check it, like when you get a loan, if you want to pay it off early, find out if there's a penalty for it. I think it's a little bit weird that you'd end up being penalized for paying something off early. So yeah, if you get a loan, double check on that just to make sure. We're not going to be dealing with penalty payments for paying off early for today's lesson though. One motive to pay off a loan before the end of the term is to pay less interest. That, I mean, it says one motive. I mean, for most people, I think that would be the motive, because, you know, if you have a loan that's at 0% interest, it doesn't really make sense to pay it off early because you're not being charged interest. So you can just spread out those payments. That's great. But if you're being charged interest, yeah, the main reason why you would want to pay it off early is so you don't continue having to pay interest on that loan. The amount of interest saved depends on the total payback, minus the sum of the previous payments and the final payment. So what we're going to be able to do today is determine how much a final payment is, how much money in interest you might save if you actually pay off that loan early. So those are going to be the things that we talk about today. So in terms of formulas today, we're going to be dealing with a simple interest formula again, because simple interest is calculated at the beginning of every term based on the remaining balance in the monthly payment. And that's the principal amount multiplied by the interest rate times the amount of time, which in this case, time is still going to be 1 month or 1/12 of a year. The final payment is going to be equal to the previous balance, whatever your balance is, plus however much interest you would pay for the remaining balance on that particular month. The amount that you will save in interest is going to be the total payback, which is your monthly payment multiplied by the number of months you have for that payment, minus the sum of the previous payments plus the final payment. And that'll tell you how much money you're saving in interest over the life of the loan if you decide to pay off a loan before you absolutely need to, which is always a good idea if you can do it. So these are the formulas we'll be using today. We'll be going back and referencing these when we need to. So figure 8.2 is this one right here, this table right here. It says this is the first 3 months of the repayment schedule that Darlene and Hayden Grant's home repair loan was for $1,800 at 12% interest for 6 months. What is the final payment if they pay off the loan with the 4th payment? So if they pay it off in 4 payments instead of 6, what will their final payment be? So first thing we're going to do is to figure out the previous balance, because that is what interest is always calculated on. Interest is always calculated on the previous balance. So remember, we are not dealing with our monthly payment anymore because they're going to pay it off in this final payment. So read the repayment schedule. Step 1, the balance they have remaining is $913.70. All right, flip the page over. Now, the amount of interest that they're going to pay is the amount they have left. That was that $913.70. So I'm just going to write this underneath here so I don't need to keep flipping back and forth. So $913.70 multiplied by their rate, which I believe was 12%. So yes, it was. And the amount of time is going to be a month. So multiplied by 1/12. It's exactly what we did near the end of last week on Thursday when we were doing this all by hand. And so the amount of interest that they're going to have on their final payment, let's go ahead and get your calculators ready. Go and open these up. 913.7 multiplied by 12%, 0.12, multiplied by 1/12. Will give us the amount of interest that's going to be owed in the 4th month. Now, regardless, if they pay off the entire loan or not in this month, they're still paying that much money in interest that month. Either way, that's how much money they're paying for interest. And we can check on this and say, hey, look, the previous month they paid $9.12. It looks like it's going down by about $3 a month in interest. That number definitely falls in line with about a decrease of $3 a month in interest. So that's definitely a good answer for the amount of interest. So interest paid in the fourth month, I is going to equal $9.14. So if they want to pay off the remainder of the loan, they're going to pay the rest of the balance, which is $913.70, plus that month's interest of $914. Not $914, $9.14. So it'll be the entire remaining principal plus the amount of interest for that month. So the final payment equals the previous balance of $913.70 plus the interest for that month, which is $9.14. So the final payment is going to be $922.84. So instead of making their monthly payments of $310.50, they're saying, you know what? We don't want to take 3 more months to do this. We're just going to go ahead and pay it off with our fourth payment instead of going through all 6 months of payments. Save a little bit of money on interest. Call it a day. So that's the answer. So calculating a final payment, not too bad. You just take the previous balance and just add in whatever month's amount of interest would be on that particular month that you're on. Add those together and you're good to go. So let's try this one. You plan on purchasing an electric scooter, which is $1,200. You get a 12-month loan at 12% interest with a balance of $816.04 after the fourth payment. So instead of going through all 12 payments, you're going to pay it off with the fifth payment. So what is the final payment amount if you pay off the loan with the fifth payment? So the interest is going to equal the balance of the loan after the fourth payment, which is not the original. It's how much is left on the loan, which is $816.04. Multiplied by the interest rate, 12%, 0.12. We're still dealing with 1 month at a time, so our T value is 112 because it's a single month. So all we have to do is head back and type in 816.04 times 0.12 multiplied by 112. And the interest is $8.16 for that month. So if you want to pay off the remainder of the balance of your loan, you're going to pay off the principal plus the interest. And that's it. So final payment is going to equal $816.04 plus $8.16. So that final payment should be $824.20. All right. So final payment is just calculating, basically just calculating one line of your payment schedule, but instead of using the monthly payment to figure it out, you're using the remaining balance and adding the interest for that month. And that's it. So that's one thing we're going to be doing today. The other thing that we're going to be doing today is figuring out how much money is actually being saved by paying off a loan early. Now, because the grants in example 1 are paying off a 6-month loan in the 4th month, and they're not spending that much in interest to begin with, they're probably not saving all that much money in interest, but we are going to figure out how much they're saving. So the interest saved is the total payback minus the sum of the previous payments plus the final payment. So total payback is going to be, just so we're clear about this, total payback is monthly payment times number of months. That's total payback. Monthly payment times number of months. The sum of the previous payment is the monthly payment times the number of months that was paid, and then plus the final payment. So here we go. The interest saved. Total payback. What was figure 8 point, whatever that was, 8.2? How many months was their loan for? The grants from the first page? They took a loan, they're going to pay it back in, originally they're planning on paying it back in how many months? 6 months. Okay, what was their monthly payment? $310.50. Okay. And they were going to pay it off in 6 months. So the total payback is here. $310.50 times 6. That's how much money they would have spent had they made all 6 payments. Now they made, how many payments did they make before they decided to pay it off? Early. 3. Yeah, they made 3 payments. Okay. So we're going to subtract the monthly payments, $310.50 times 3, plus the final payment, which was right here, $922.84. So plus $922.84. All right. That's what we're going to do to calculate how much money they're actually saving in interest. It's not going to be very much. It might be, I'm thinking it's going to end up being like, I don't know, $15 maybe. It's not going to be a whole lot. So let's see, $310.50 times 6. They were, that's right, $310.50 times 6. There we go. They were going to spend $1,863. That's how much money they would have spent had they made all 6 payments. But they made 3 payments, $310.50 times 3, $931.50 plus the final payment of $922.84. So their total that they spent was $1,854.34. They were going to spend $1,863. So paying it off early, they didn't save all that much in interest, but they did save some. So this number here, 310.5 times 6, that's 1,863. And then we subtract everything in the parentheses here, which turned out to be 1,854.34. So we'll just subtract those. 1,863 minus 1,854.34. They saved a total of $8.66 in interest. So honestly, by paying it off 2 months early, they saved $8.64 in interest. I mean, that's great and everything, but I wouldn't call that a significant amount of savings. What was the original loan for? 1,800? Okay. So the life of the loan, they were only going to spend $63 in interest to begin with, total. Not a whole lot in it. It's over 6 months, right? That's like a little over, on average, $10 a month in interest, which, you know, it's something, but it's actually not that much. So I get it's just an example in a textbook, but at the same time, practically speaking, if you're going to get a 6-month loan and you're only going to save $8 by paying it off a couple months early, I don't know. You may as well just make the payments, finish it out the loan. I don't know. Or just don't take the loan in the first place and get $1,800 and save yourself $63 in interest. Beats me. What was it even for? Home repair. All right. Well, maybe it was an urgent home repair and they didn't have the $1,800 in cash at the time that they needed the repair. I don't know. Okay. So in problem 1, here we go. This problem here, problem 1, the one that we just talked about a few minutes ago with the balance of $1,200 for a 12-month loan. I want you to figure out how much money was saved by paying it off with the 5th payment as opposed to paying all 12 payments. So do that one on your own. Take a couple minutes. And that's it for the notes. That's it for the unit. I'll get you your assignment, and then tomorrow we'll start reviewing. So take about, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. Use this formula right here in comparison with this problem that we just did up here. So it tells you, actually, ooh, this is interesting. Fourth payment, balance of the fourth payment. Fourth payment of, oh, it does tell you the monthly amount. Okay, that's the monthly amount right there for that loan. We could have calculated it, but it told us. That's nice. All right, anybody have an answer? How much money was saved in interest? Should be a little bit more than the previous one. But this is also a situation where the total interest wasn't going to be that much anyway, but saved a little bit. Anybody have it? Interest savings? When the loan was set up, that's how much money they were going to spend. This is how much money was actually spent by paying it off early. What was it? How much is saved? 28. Could be. That's weird. What number am I looking at here? 1278. Oh, sorry. That shouldn't be 1278.28. That's 1278.72. I took the wrong decimal. 1278.72. It's 28.28. That should be the savings. Yeah, $28.28. is how much money was saved in interest. So the original amount of interest that was going to be spent was $78.72. The total interest paid was $50.44. So $28.28 was saved in it. This is one of those things right here. I mean, if you're going to buy an electric scooter and it's $1,200, you might not need an electric scooter right then. So I don't know, save yourself $80 in interest and just save up a little bit and pay it with cash, and don't pay the loan or the interest. Things, I don't know, one year loans to me are a little bit odd, unless it's something that you have to have right now. Like legitimately need in that moment. If you don't absolutely need it right then and you're planning on taking like a 6 or 12-month loan, just wait 6 or 12 months. Home repair would be in one for sure. Like this first one here, like if, I don't know, like if your refrigerator completely dies, you need a refrigerator, right? Refrigerators are not cheap. They tend to be pretty expensive. And so if you don't have the cash on hand to buy an entire refrigerator, but you can take a loan out for one, then, that makes a little bit of sense. Medical is another one where, yes, you can. However, with medical bills, there is a way for you to do loans on medical bills and pay no interest whatsoever, which works really well. If you don't have the money for a medical loan, you can basically just tell the hospital, like, I can't pay this all right now. Can I go on a payment plan? And oftentimes they'll say, yes, we can set up like a 2-year payment plan. And they'll do that at no interest, which is great. So, yeah. And if you want to do a longer term, most of the time, medical places, hospitals don't do more than 2 years for repaying the loans. But you can have that loan basically like if you can't pay it off in that amount of time, the state can end up taking that loan on from the hospital, and then you can pay back the state over a longer period of time, still at no interest. So yeah, there are ways to work around medical loans and only pay what you owe and no more, which is nice. But for things that you're gonna have to pay interest on, yeah, things that you absolutely need, maybe like a vet bill, for example, for an animal, those ones probably would be interest, would charge interest. Yeah.
They consider inflation.
No. Nope, they just take the balance of the loan, they split it out over however many months, and you just pay it back at no interest. So, yeah, with that kind of stuff, you can go with 0 interest, which is great. But yeah, in terms of like needs, I mean, sometimes a car is a need, to be honest. Like sometimes, like if you have an old car and it's not worth very much and it breaks down and it's going to cost you more to fix the car than the car is worth, there's no sense in fixing the car. But if you need a car to get to work or whatever, then yeah, you probably end up having to take a loan for another vehicle if you don't have the cash on hand. So yeah, there are instances where there are necessities for taking loans. They are fewer than they are common, I would imagine. I mean, from my personal viewpoint, but if you need a couch, I mentioned this before, you can get one secondhand. And you can get clean secondhand furniture as well for very cheap. And yeah, you would not need to take a loan or anything like that. Not only can you get clean secondhand furniture, oftentimes you can get pretty decent secondhand furniture as well for very cheap. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, hit up Goodwill, St. Vinny's, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, all those kinds of places. You can find things for not very much money that people just want to get rid of. Like, I don't have the space for it. Oftentimes when people sell furniture, it means they've already bought new furniture and they do not want to hang on to it anymore because it's just taking up a bunch of space in their house. And you can, yeah, oftentimes get pretty good deals on that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've bought and sold plenty of things off of secondhand, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, things like that. So